great chief. But anyway, I won't call his name, but Tom worked down on the eastern part of the state. What? Y'all know him? Who? No, not Tom Moss. No, it's not Tom Moss. He was chief in Fayetteville for a while. Tom McCarthy, that's who he was. He's passed away since. But Tom had a great philosophy, I think, when he said, don't ever get the mahogany mentality. And I said, what in the world is a mahogany mentality? He said, don't ever think that you can sit behind a desk and know what happens in your city. And that has always stuck with me. So when we start talking about outside the box thinking, we start going to the people that do the job. So how do I make this better? Well, Chief, let me just tell you, I think what you're doing is stupid. And they would literally tell me that, won't they? Yes, she won't. And I encourage that. If I'm stupid, somebody tell me, at least argue with me. And they do, but our outside the box thinking has really, really made a difference. And I'm going to show you some of that just in a little bit. Give you some time. All right, information-led policing. This is kind of our crutch. This is what gets us through. We do a crime stat meeting. We do it once a month. We don't do the weekly change, but we do a once a month crime stat meeting. It is not your traditional crime stat meeting. It is numbers and all about crime. We do talk about crime. We do talk about numbers. We talk about fishing. I'm serious. We talk about going fishing. I'm going to show you in a minute. We talk about going fishing. We talk about where our issues are. We talk about answers. We round table solutions. One thing I have found is it is so cool when you go into a room full of supervisors or detectives or narc agents or whoever happens to want to come that day, and I can get that conversation started, and I can go sit in the corner. I'll go sit down, and they will actually sit there, and they will solve things. They will fix it. You just seen the UCR charts. That's where it comes out. But most of you know what crime stat is. I'm not going to do that. Basically, we're looking at where it's at, what it is, where's it happening, why is it happening. Here's how we do. We're cops. We love color and pretty little shapes, right? Every month we make this map of the city. And it's a density map. The darker the red, the higher the crime is per square mile. This is where we talk about fishing. If that red is my part one crime, where do I want to be? We use the fishing hole theory. Right there is my fishing hole. Every month we tell them, here's your highest concentration of violent crime. It come off that other map. 80% of our violent crime happened right there. If I want to fix violent crime, where do I go? That's my fishing hole. Well, I told them, when you go to the lake to go fishing, you don't just put the boat in and throw the hook over and say, boom, fish. You got to find them. You got to find where they're at, find where they're hovering, find what the bait is. And I can tell you, frontline people know more about where the bait is than anything. This has been huge for us. And we do it with different things. This is shots fired calls. Again, we do it just a tad bit different with shots fired. Most of the time when somebody calls in a shots fired call, what's the officer's going to do? Ride through, clear. Yeah, ride through, clear, repeat. Ride through, clear, repeat. Pretty much. We took this a step further. We'll ride through, we're going to check it, we're going to clear. But within 24 hours, that officer's going to call whoever called it in back. They're just going to call them or go see them and say, hey, you called in shots fired, what's happening? Because most of the time, they don't want you to come right then, correct? They don't want you pulling up in their driveway. But the next day, what we found out, they're tickled to death see. You pull up and say, hey, you called in shots fired last night. What's been going on? Well, I'm not going to tell you who, but we get a lot of that. Yeah, but we've been able to clear a lot of these cases. So it's that outside the box, and that came to us from one of the officers who said, you know what? They don't want us that night. But the next day, I bet they'll talk to us. And sure enough, guess what? They did. Worked out very well. So that's just some of the ways we use these maps. This is a big one that Stephanie and I were talking about earlier, of what we do with this information. How many of you ever seen the scales of justice? This is kind of big, and you go through our shop, you're going to see just this printed, just the scales a lot of times. And we've told our folks, we've got to be able to balance this community and this enforcement. Because if you go into an agency in a city, think about where you work. If you get so enforcement oriented, It moves, you lock it up. You're right around, you're looking for the tickets. What's going to happen? If you focus solely on enforcement, and that's it, when something goes south, what's going to happen? Yeah, there you go, Ferguson. Yeah, I can tell you what happens. When you go solely on enforcement and you're not looking to build any cheerleaders, any allies, anything in that community, people like me have suitcases handy for a reason. First thing, Chief's gone. Then's going to come a lot of stuff. You become almost a neo-Nazi type organization. But if you're too much community and not enough enforcement, what happens? Becomes a hug-a-thug, right? Absolutely. Every criminal state's coming to where you are because you are so community and you're no enforcement. We had to find that balance. Where's that perfect thing in the middle that we have taken care of our community and that we have told our bad people, here's what's going to happen to you, and we're done with it. And we constantly fight this battle. Sometimes it'll go like this and sometimes it'll go the other way, but we bring it back. And this is something that our crime stat meetings we talk about religiously. How are we doing? I'll give you an example. We had a funeral today. We had to make sure, our folks wanted to make sure we had somebody at it. It was a relative of one of our cheerleaders. He supported us, we're going to support him. But the fact that you had these officers going, wait a minute, we got to get there. Somebody's got to go. That tells you something. They understand that balance. So I can't come in and preach one side. If I preach one side, that becomes me. I got to be able to come in and talk both, and here's how we've kind of done that. And I'm going to shoot through this other stuff, give you the time for questions. Hang on. I'm sorry, this thing's broke down into. You're seeing these slides going, God, that's cool stuff, aren't you? Yeah. Call-in process, you're used to that at 9 Point, aren't you? How many of you do call-in? Anybody at your agencies do call-in or notification? A few of you? Oh, yeah. That's not a fun time of year. Yeah. Call-in where you bring the offenders in and you say, okay, you got to change. Here's the help for you if you will change. Here's the consequence if you don't change, and then we put you in jail. Yeah. Pretty much great program. We do it. Actually, High Point helped us build ours. When it was it Fraley? Faley. I never can pronounce that. Did really, really great with us, so we have to credit him with this. So I'm not going to beat you that, but I do want you to see this part. Here, neighborhood notification. This is our spin on a call-in process. And understanding the basic to a call-in is what we just talked about. We're looking for offenders who are violent offenders, gun crimes, gang crime, drug crime. And we call them in and we have a meeting. One thing we realized when we were trying to build this relationship back with our community and get them more involved is that we were actually in the way. We were telling them, here's how your community needs to be. And I can tell you, I've never spent a night on Gardner Street. I've never spent a night on Lineberger Street. I've never slept in any of their houses, and I've never walked in their shoes. But yet I, as the chief, wanted to step up and go, here's how you need to run your neighborhood. If I were them, I'd have turned around and said, won't you move your butt in? But we figured out this was not working. So we needed to figure out how do you balance the community and the law enforcement part, and then how do we build those cheerleaders for later and get the citizen to take care of their neighborhood and to view us as a resource. We created neighborhood notification. We took a call-in philosophy and said, if we can call an offender in and say, you know what? You broke the law, we're done, we're tired. Why can't we do the same thing to a house? Now, how stupid does that sound? 5? Yeah, it is stupid, but it worked. Here's what we did. It's very similar to the call-in. We looked for distressed areas, and we based it on quality of life and crime. Now, in this one, I'm going to show you Matt in a minute. You can see him right here. Our first one, we took a 10-block area. We spent about 2 months doing surveillance on it with narc agents. They were under there buying dope, they're buying whatever, buying liquor, you name it. If you'd sell it in that area, they'll buy it, and they're not touching you. All we wanted was the intel. Who's the trouble places, who's the good places. When it come to call or notification day, You'll see, there's the area that we did. Right there. It's part of it. Now, these maps were on display. We put them. We had a congregation point. It was a local church. We had our folks, we had preachers, we had community, and we had residents. And we had them all come to this parking lot. And said, all right, we're getting ready to go do the notification. Here's the maps, and here's what's going on. You would be amazed at the number of people look at that map and go, that's my house. I go, yeah, you need to ask Junior where he's getting his money. I mean, we had a video going of undercover buys that was on a computer, and people going, oh my God, turn that off. Sorry. Now, we weren't arresting anybody. We're just putting it all on the table. We're showing it. So, but there's the area. This is one of the gathering points here. I don't know how well you can see that. This is some of the crowd. District attorneys, we got judges, we got preachers in here. There's about 30 of our folks that are in here. ATF is here, federal probation, state probation, ALE is standing in here. We got everybody represented through this. And we give them a briefing, and we told them all about this. This is what's going on. Here's the places within this particular neighborhood that's killing it. They got to go. They're leaving. Then we take to the street. You can see some of the residents looking. All right, here's what happened. See that yellow piece of paper? That yellow piece of paper is a letter from me to the resident. And it basically says, you're a good resident. We're here to help you take your community back. We know what you're facing, and we're going to be here with you to the end. It's yours, and we're going to help you restore it. We know who the good folks are, we know who the bad folks are. If you're a bad folk, we know what you're doing. Here's what you're doing. It ends today. We're done with it. If you want help, we'll give it to you. If you don't want help, your tail will be in prison tomorrow. We will write you for your shingles being the wrong color, your grass being too high, you parked your car wrong. We do not care, but we're going to be so far up you will not be able to handle it. Basically, that's what that letter says. This guy here, bless his heart, this is an ARC sergeant and one of the detectives who went to his house with that little yellow piece of paper. He opens the door, out boils marijuana smoke. You know, talk about a bad day starting. You know, there's your ARC sergeant standing there, and you're asking him if he wants a pull. But they give him a letter and told him, you know what, you're selling. We know you're selling. It's done. We're finished. This cat moved the next day. He had mom and daddy come get him. He moved. He got out. We did not charge him for the marijuana. We took what he had, they put it in the front yard, and they said, this is your free day. We're finished. As all this was going on, this is one of our retirees here, Willie McIntosh. He's stealing this little girl's pizza. The kids came up and ate. Literally, was he not? He's got a message for me to give you, too. Yeah, this Lisa Green, some of y'all know Lisa. Lisa just retired. She was serving the food. These kids that are coming up hate cops. Let me say that again. They hate cops. But they like pizza more than they hate cops. We're feeding them. They're coming up. They're interacting. They're actually sitting around talking to the cops, having a big time while the rest of them are out on the street. This lady here, she was getting her letter. She's a good lady. She hugged her neck and she said, thank God we didn't think you knew what was going on. So these officers here, you know, they're making some great contacts. Here's a good one. This is the division commander here, and this guy right here is Public Works Director. Does Public Works have a vested interest in fighting crime? Absolutely they do. If you go tell them, they're going to go, that's your job, not mine. I do leaves and trees. But if you show them, they'll love it. We let him walk with us. And what he heard is that most of the problems in that community, I mean, yeah, there was some drugs, and there was kids doing things, and there was gunshots. Tree limbs on the side of the road, trash on the side of the road, street lights were out, the signposts were down. You know, the one lady told him, said, you know, I'm proud of the road I live on, but nobody knows where it's at. It was Clegg Street back in there. He put the sign up the next day for her. She's tickled to death. It wouldn't matter if somebody shot holes through her walls. She got that sign up. So she's happy, and now this man has a vested interest in what we're doing. So when our folks call him and say, hey, we got some debris on the side of the road, do you mind? He goes, absolutely, I'm on it. Because he's making a difference. Now he's a part of it. So it was really nice to see that. This is the officers walking through. This is media here. They went with us. They filmed it. Unfortunately, 2 minutes into this little trip here, a drunk guy walks out the road. She's an attractive reporter, and he wanted to tell her that. He had some plans for the afternoon that involved her, and he wanted to tell her that. It was great for her. Not just the flattery, but she got to see what these officers deal with every day. That was so nice for her to get to see that. This is some of ours walking. Sherdala here. This is our chaplain. He's one of our chaplains. We have to take a preacher when we do these things. But you can see they all got a handful of these papers. She's a citizen. You got a citizen walking to another citizen's house going, here, we're here to help you. That was pretty powerful to see that. Here's some of the kids interacting. Lieutenant Steve's seat. Instead kind of here talking. So a lot of interaction. That's Terry, that's our service division manager. You can see the kids were big. And this is what it's about. Best picture I've ever seen with our agency. Tell you a little about this kid. Mom could not stand cops. She told all of her kids, you don't trust them. They're against us. Little guy here comes up. Here again, she liked pizza more than she hated cops. So little kid comes up, one of the officers asked the mom, can he eat pizza? Because he is, a little small. She went, sure, he'll eat anything you put in his hand. So the officer was tearing pizza off and feeding him. So she's holding him. So he keeps feeding him. Well, the kid was amazed by the patch on his arm. And when he would want another piece of pizza, he'd rub that patch. And the officer would give him pizza. So when she puts him down, they give him you can see sort of a half a piece there. He walks over to the car and stands beside that patch. And as he's eating his pizza, he's rubbing that patch. This kid has just associated someone giving him something to that patch. And I've used this with our staff, and I've told them, I said, here it is, guys. This kid loves you. It's yours to lose.